Welcome to Around the World in 80 Bottles, where we're continuing our tour in Australia through your kitchen at home. And today we're going to be in the Barossa Valley, where I had pizza at Roaring 40's, which was voted 7 times best pizza in Australia. Now you may say, why would you get pizza in Australia? But it was fantastic, and you can't argue with how many times they've won the best. And we're going to be traveling in Italy soon, so it's kind of whetting my appetite for some good pizza. So what we're going to do on this is we're going to start off with some cornmeal. Now if you have a pizza peel at home, use it. But not most people I know have a pizza peel. And you can put this directly on your pizza stone. But what I've found is if you can warm up your pizza stone ahead of time, you're going to have a much better pizza. It gets crisper. So I'm going to be very liberal in my cornmeal, because what I want is for the pizza to come right off and go onto that pizza stone. If you don't have a pizza stone, just use a pan, but you still want to warm it up for at least 30 minutes, maybe an hour at 450 degrees. I'm going to actually use a little extra cornmeal for my hands. And we're going to take this pizza dough. So I'm going to take this pizza dough. Now you can roll this out if you want to. Okay, there we go. Easy enough. Now I'm going to spread this out a little bit more just to make sure everything's even and we've got that great little circle. That cornmeal is going to do me a lot of favors by keeping everything moving. Okay, so now we've got this pretty little pizza round, and all we have to do is put our sauces and our meats and everything on it. So what we want to start off with is our lamb, and what I've done is taken my leftover lamb from last week's episode, and then I've taken a few potatoes. And what I normally do with potatoes is to saute them, but for this recipe I like to boil them because it gives them a little more moisture and you're about to put them in the oven. I drizzle a little basil garlic olive oil. Now we'll tell you, the Roaring 40's where we got this idea does rosemary. Rosemary's not my favorite, so I use basil. Then we're just going to put this very liberally and evenly all over the pizza. Nothing like a potato on your pizza, I always say. And actually I will say, since we're going to Italy next month on Around the World, that Italian pizzas always amaze me with how they will use anything on them. It's so much more interesting than what we do at the United States. I remember having not just egg baked in the middle, but corn and just all kinds of crazy things. And I would come home and I'd go to see my parents and I'd say, oh, let's do a pizza, and they'd get a pizza crust and I'd start throwing artichokes and fresh corn and roasted red peppers, and they'd say, I thought you were going to do pizza. And I said, yeah, I'm doing pizza the real way. So I like the innovation. So now we're doing spinach. And I like the frozen spinach so you don't have to cook it, because one way or the other it's got to be moist or else it's going to get really dry once you put it in the oven. And then we're going to put some feta cheese on. Now when you're doing pizza, I've always found it makes sense to start in the very middle and you just do circles, expanding as you go out, and that way everything ends up fairly evenly spaced. Then we've got a garlic yogurt dip. Now what I did was I roasted an entire head of garlic and mixed it with some yogurt. Now this is going to be very different than if you were to do a tomato sauce, but I think it's a lot more fun. You could also do this at the beginning, but I like the way that it coats everything as it melts. And then I'm just going to do one last drizzle of our olive oil to make sure we've got enough moisture on our pizza. you gotta be really light with the hand on that. Okay, now the next step for me is to put this directly on my pizza stone. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll this up, I'm gonna slide it right on, and then we're gonna bake that for about 15 minutes. All right, so we have now pulled our pizza out of the oven. It should be fairly simple to see how we did with this with our rosé. And we're doing Calcu Rose, which is from Chile this week, and it's a nice little blend of Malbec, Syrah, and Petit Verdot, and it's got enough body to it to really match this lamb on the pizza, but it's not going to overwhelm it like you would if you did a big red like the lamb that we had on its own. Well, it's perfect pizza. I can barely eat it. Oh, but the yogurt sauce lends it such a nice element. And the rosé really is perfect. I actually had a rosé when I had this pizza at the diner in the Barossa, but it was an Australian rosé. And I thought, well, let's just change this up and do something from Chile. And it's got the same reason I like the other one. Big body, light and crisp, and everything about this just makes you want to have another slice, another glass. So I hope you enjoy this, and join us next time on Around the World in 80 Bottles. I'm Emily Garrison. Cheers!